In today's video, I'm going to show you how to craft memorable scenarios that captivate and engage your audience and lead to action. Mastering this skill could be the key to taking your scenarios to the next level. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why storytelling matters, but I'll also show you a 4-step formula to develop stories. You'll learn how different story structures can add depth and variety to your scenarios, and how to keep your audience on the edge of their seats, making your scenarios not just informative, but also transformative. First, let's talk about why storytelling is crucial when writing scenarios. Whether you're writing for a book, a game, or even a business training module, the power of storytelling lies in its ability to connect emotionally with your audience. Think of storytelling as the bridge that transports your audience from indifference to engagement. It transforms bland descriptions into immersive experiences. When you add emotion, tension, and sensory details, your audience isn't just reading, they're feeling the moment. That's the power of a well-crafted story. We make decisions based on emotions, not rational thought. Because let's be honest, if we all thought rationally, there'd be no reality TV.
This is the most physically demanding and emotionally draining game on television.
So it's important to tell stories as they transport emotions. Great stories linger in our minds because they make us feel something. They create a connection, and that's exactly what you want to do with your scenarios. Tell me about a story in the comments below, a story that stuck with you, and let's talk about what made it so powerful. Here are the key reasons why storytelling is important for scenarios. Stories evoke emotions, making it easier for people to connect with the scenario on a personal level. Through characters and plot, storytelling shows the relationships and interactions between different elements of the scenario. A compelling story can motivate stakeholders to take action as they see the potential impact of their decisions. Storytelling transforms abstract futures into human experiences, making the scenarios more relatable. So how do we go from plain scenarios to scenarios that engage and lead to action? I'm going to give you a simple 4-step formula that you can apply to any scenario to make it come alive. Let's break it down step by step. First up is character development. In scenario writing, characters represent the key stakeholders involved in the situation. Think of company leaders, employees, customers, competitors, or the general society. These are the people who will be affected by, who will influence the scenario's evolution. Their unique perspectives will add depth to your scenario, as they will enrich your narrative and make it more relatable. Next, we move on to context. This element sets the stage for your scenario by providing the background information necessary for understanding the situation. Context is the frame around your picture. Without it, the image loses its definition and focus. Describe the historical context, the current state of affairs, and any relevant external factors. Additionally, paint a vivid picture of the physical, social, economic, and political environment where the scenario takes place. Context helps your audience grasp the setting and the stakes involved, making the scenario more engaging and grounded. Now let's explore the next element, complications or events. These are the standard contents of scenarios, the critical uncertainties that are defining that particular scenario, and the drivers of change that are certain to happen. These complications introduce tension and force the characters to adapt or react, kind of like trying to assemble IKEA furniture without instructions. They could be anything from a sudden technological breakthrough by a competitor to a significant economic downturn. Think of key events as significant occurrences that propel the story, and consider how the sequence of actions affects the characters and the overall scenario. Emotional impact is also crucial. How do these events stir feelings like hope, fear, or anticipation? Finally, we come to change. Change represents the evolution or outcome of the scenario resulting from the complications. It reflects how the characters and the context adapt to disruptions and what new realities emerge. Understanding change helps illustrate the potential impacts of different decisions and how they might alter future outcomes. For example, in a market disruption scenario, changes might include shifts in market share, altered customer behaviors, or new competitors entering the scene. This allows participants to see the long-term effects of the disruption and adapt their strategies accordingly. Traditionally, stories conclude with a resolution that ties up the narrative's threads. It's where the complication or conflict is resolved, and the transformations or journeys that characters undergo throughout the story are completed. The conclusion brings the story to a satisfying close, offering closure to the audience. But we don't want closure for scenarios. Instead, we want to leave the scenarios unresolved and use them in further workshops to test strategies or develop new ones. These 4 elements – character development, context, complications, and change – are your tools for crafting scenarios that captivate. So now that we've covered the basics of storytelling in scenarios, let's dive into some different story structures that can add depth and variety to your scenarios. These structures are like tools in your storytelling toolbox, each suited to different types of narratives and objectives. But first, if you're still watching, it means you're getting something valuable from this video. So please hit that like button. It helps me understand what kind of content you love and keeps me motivated to create even more engaging videos just for you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel to stay updated with my latest content. Your support makes a huge difference and ensures you never miss out on new videos and foresight insights. Now back to story structures. Let's start with perhaps the most well-known story structure of all times, the hero's journey. This classic structure is found in countless folk tales, myths, and religious writings from around the world. It goes something like this. The hero is called to leave their familiar world and sets out on a difficult journey, moving from a place they know into a threatening, unknown realm. Along the way, they face and overcome a great trial, and when they finally return home, they do so with a reward or newfound wisdom, something that benefits their community. Sound familiar? Well, that's because lots of modern stories still follow this structure. Think of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Frodo Baggins lives a peaceful and uneventful life in the Shire, surrounded by friends and the beauty of nature. This setting represents the hero's normal world before the adventure begins. The tranquility and simplicity of Frodo's life highlight the stark contrast with the epic journey he's about to undertake. Gandalf tells Frodo that the ring he inherited from Bilbo is the One Ring, an incredibly powerful and dangerous artifact. This revelation disrupts Frodo's ordinary life, thrusting him into a larger, more dangerous world. This moment marks the call to adventure, where Frodo must decide whether to stay in his safe world or take on the responsibility of the ring. Frodo leaves the safety and comfort of the Shire behind. This symbolizes his first step into the unknown as he begins his perilous journey with the Fellowship. The moment he steps out of the Shire, he officially crosses the threshold from his ordinary life into the extraordinary world of adventure. On this adventure, he has to overcome different trials. In the mines of Moria, Gandalf sacrifices himself to save the others, a moment of great loss and despair for the heroes. This ordeal tests the resolve of the Fellowship, especially Frodo, who must continue the journey without Gandalf's guidance. As the Fellowship reaches the breaking point, Boromir, consumed by the ring's power, tries to take it from Frodo. This betrayal forces Frodo to realize the corrupting influence of the ring and pushes him to continue the journey alone. Later in the journey, Frodo and Sam face betrayal once again, this time by Gollum, who leads them into a trap by the giant spider Shelob. Gollum's treachery nearly costs Frodo his life and highlights the ever-present danger of trusting those influenced by the ring. Despite these betrayals, Frodo and Sam continue their mission. As Frodo finally reaches Mount Doom, the ring's power overwhelms him. Standing at the brink of the Crack of Doom, Frodo cannot bring himself to destroy the ring, choosing instead to claim it as his own. After a struggle with Gollum, who bites off Frodo's finger to take the ring, it is ultimately Gollum's fall into the fire that destroys the ring. After the ring is destroyed, Frodo and Sam return to the Shire. But Frodo finds that he is forever changed by his journey. He's unable to return to his old life as if nothing happened. Despite the external return, he realizes he cannot find peace within himself until he leaves the Shire for the Undying Lands, seeking healing and solace. But here's the thing. The hero's journey is often just a monomyth, meaning that it revolves around one central character. In scenarios, however, we often have multiple stakeholders with diverse perspectives, which makes this structure less versatile for our needs. Okay, The Lord of the Rings is clearly more than just about Frodo, but Tolkien needed 3 volumes consisting of 2 books each to fully explore the diverse characters, their strengths, and their flaws, and we just don't have that time when we deal with scenarios. This is where a more complex storytelling technique can come into play. Picture a flower with multiple petals radiating out from a central core. This petal structure is perfect if you have several unconnected stories or points you want to make, all of which relate back to a single overarching message. Each story is like a petal, distinct and complete in itself. But when you step back, they all come together to form a coherent whole. The petals can even overlap, with one story naturally leading into the next, creating a seamless flow. By showing how all these individual stories connect, you leave your audience with a deeper understanding of the true importance and weight of your scenario. Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino is an excellent example of the petal structure. The film tells multiple, seemingly unconnected stories that revolve around a central theme of crime and redemption. Each story is a petal that overlaps with others at certain points, but they all contribute to the larger narrative, creating a rich, multifaceted story that circles back to the central idea. We have a set of 5 main characters. Vincent Vega is a hitman employed by the powerful crime boss Marcellus Wallace. He's central to several of the film's key storylines, demonstrating both his professional side as a ruthless enforcer and a more human side. Then there's Jules Winfield, Vincent's partner and fellow hitman, known for his philosophical musings and commanding presence. Throughout the film, he experiences a profound transformation, contemplating the nature of his life and his work. Mia Wallace is the enigmatic and charismatic wife of Marcellus Wallace. Her relationship with Vincent forms one of the film's most memorable sequences, exploring the tension between them as they navigate their night out. Butch Coolidge is a boxer who is supposed to throw a fight on Marcellus Wallace's orders, but decides to double-cross him by winning and then fleeing with the money. And then, of course, we have Marcellus Wallace, the feared crime lord who controls much of the criminal activity in Los Angeles. Though his presence looms large over the film, he is mostly seen through the actions of others until his direct involvement in Butch's storyline. These characters' intertwining stories contribute to the non-linear narrative structure of Pulp Fiction, creating a complex and richly textured film. So each of these storytelling techniques, whether it's the hero's journey or the petal structure, offers a unique way to bring your scenarios to life. They help you navigate the complexities of multiple perspectives, creating layered narratives and ultimately engage your audience on a deeper level. But crafting an engaging story doesn't just stop with a structure. There's another critical element that can elevate your scenarios from merely interesting to captivating: suspense. Imagine this. You're watching a movie, and right from the first scene, you're dropped into the heart of the action. Chaos, tension, high stakes. You're immediately hooked, right? That's the power of suspense, and it's just as effective in scenario writing as it is on the big screen. It's the element that keeps your audience glued to the story, eagerly anticipating what comes next. But how do you build this kind of tension in your scenarios? Imagine starting your story not at the beginning, but right in the middle of the action. This technique is known as Inmedia Res, a Latin phrase that translates to "in the midst of things." By beginning in the heat of the action, your audience is immediately gripped, wondering how the characters ended up in this moment and what will happen next. But here's the trick. You don't want to reveal everything all at once. The goal is to give just enough information to hook your audience, hinting at something unexpected or bizarre that demands further explanation. As you gradually rewind to set the scene, your audience remains fully engaged, eager to piece together the story. Fight Club uses Inmedia Res by starting the film at a pivotal, high-stakes moment, then rewinding to show the events that led up to it. This approach instantly grabs the audience's attention, creating intrigue and suspense as they are left wondering how the characters arrived at such a tense situation. The narrative then unfolds, providing context and depth, making the eventual return to that opening moment even more impactful. But Inmedia Res isn't the only tool in your suspense toolkit. Another effective method is the false start. Picture this. You start describing a scenario that feels familiar, maybe even a bit mundane. Just when your audience thinks they know where it's going, you disrupt the narrative and start over, revealing that things aren't what they seem.
Good morning!
Morning! Good morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
It's a clever way to catch your audience off guard, forcing them to pay closer attention as the scenario unfolds in a completely different direction. Fight Club also demonstrates the power of a false start by setting up a seemingly predictable narrative with a narrator's existential crisis and the formation of Fight Club. Initially, the audience is led to believe they are witnessing a straightforward story about identity and rebellion. However, the twist that Tyler Durden is a manifestation of the narrator's split personality completely reshapes the understanding of the entire plot. This technique highlights how a clever twist can transform a story, keeping your audience engaged and making them rethink the narrative's meaning. Just as Fight Club redefined its story with an unexpected revelation, your scenarios can be elevated by mastering storytelling techniques and adding elements of suspense. Remember, a well-told story doesn't just inform, it transforms. It has the power to change perspectives, inspire action, and make your scenarios resonate deeply with your audience. Now that you've mastered the art of turning scenarios into engaging stories, you might be wondering, what's next? How do you push the boundaries even further and truly make an impact with your scenarios? Watch my interview with Tom Chermak right here, in which he discusses the importance of putting scenarios to use. This is where storytelling meets strategic execution, and it's a must-watch for anyone serious about making a difference with scenario thinking.